case you didn't notice, Senator Bob Menendez. I'm going to ask Susan to say a few words, and then I'll introduce the senator. I know he's got a very busy day here on the Hill, so we were not going to delay that. But Susan, you want to say a few words? That's fine. I wrote mine too. I don't want to picture people in their underpants.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Parker, and I'm a peer advocate with Catholic Charities Early Intervention Services Support. Although my favorite way to introduce myself to legislatures has been, I am your tax dollars at work.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know what a peer advocate is, a peer advocate must have lived experience. I do have a mental health diagnosis, and I do take medication every day, and I'm also a recovering addict. My journey to recovery with an ending, my 28-year marriage. Despite enduring 28 years of abuse, it was all I knew, and the thought of the unknown caused me great despair. After my divorce and some really bad choices on my part, I ended up homeless and hungry. With the help of my father, a retired Marine, I ended up in a welfare motel in Burlington County. In order to move on and rebuild my life, I started to attend a program at Catholic Charities Delaware House. With the help of a therapist from Catholic Charities, I endured these difficult times and became more than a survivor. 8 months after I started my day program, I was given a place to call home. I entered into a supportive housing program. I still live there, and I'll never leave. In 2009, I attended college and earned an associate's degree from Burlington County College. With the gaps in my resume, finding a job was more difficult than I had anticipated. So back to Catholic Charities I went. I spoke with Arlene Campbell from Supportive Employment, and she entered me into a program that the Mental Health Association of New Jersey sponsored for peer advocates. I was approved through the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, and before I finished my training, I did get a job at Catholic Charities. I have worked for Catholic Charities since August of 2013. I am a member of the Social Policy Committee. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Catholic Charities for empowering me to serve society. I won't be here today without Catholic Charities and the help I received along the way. For me, hope started with Catholic Charities. Thank you.
So, we've heard today some tremendous stories of loss and triumph and turning tragedy into success. We're fortunate to have a senator in New Jersey who knows about the issues that all of us have faced or work with every day. He not only knows about them and shakes his head, but he works really hard to make sure that something happens on those issues and that we have progress and we move forward. As the ranking member of the Senate Subcommittee on Housing, Transportation, and Community Development, our Senator Bob Menendez has the clout and the ability to get things done. I'm proud that we've been able to collaborate with him and his staff, who are fantastic, to address many of the pressing issues that face New Jersey today. We talked a little bit about foreclosures in Jersey. We're fifth in rental affordability, we are first in foreclosures, and we are first in zombie foreclosures. That's where somebody walks away from the house, the owner's not found, the bank's trying to foreclose, nobody knows what's going on. If you've been in any community in New Jersey, you've seen those homes, you know what a headache and they are for the neighborhood and local officials. We like to say that any abandoned property drives down everybody's property value. Senator Menendez called us and said, this is a problem, what should we do? And we came up with some ideas, and very recently he introduced Preventing Abandoned Foreclosures and Preserving Communities Act, which makes several remedies possible aimed at helping homeowners and preventing those kinds of foreclosures, including making sure that the bank or the lender tells folks what their rights are when they start the foreclosure process, so that they know that they can stay there. One of the things that we've seen is that people are being foreclosed on and they leave right away. They don't have to leave right away. Nobody should leave until they absolutely have to, because that's a house, that's a roof over your head, and a place for your kids to go to school. So we want people to know they have the right to stay in that home until the absolute last possible minute. And the Senator is helping us deliver that message and making it part of the law. In addition to helping with foreclosures, his office called right away as soon as the lead poisoning issue hit. And he's been working on one of the things that we like to do is make sure that if something is national news, we make sure that it's news in New Jersey too. We want to be sure that we're taking advantage of every opportunity to get positive change in our state and in our communities. I talked a little bit about the situation with lead poisoning before, but the Senator said, well, we need to do more. He introduced the True Leadership Act, which is a really long acronym for testing, removal, and updated evaluations of lead everywhere in America. I have to read that one. For dramatic enhancements that restore safety to homes, infrastructure, and pipes. That might be the longest acronym legislation I've ever seen, but it includes really important provisions that the Senator had previously tried to advance, including making sure that children living in federally assisted housing are protected from the dangers of lead poisoning. The bill would also stimulate billions of dollars of private sector investment in water infrastructure to make sure that we have the best water delivery system that we need to be sure that water is clean. Senator Booker, who you're going to hear from later, and Congressman Castrell are both moving. Senator Booker's moving that bill with Senator Menendez in the Senate, and Congressman Castrell moving it in the House. It also requires HUD to align its definition of lead poisoning with the current best science being used by the Centers for Disease Control. Right now in New Jersey, up until actually 3 or 4 days ago, we had a 10 deciliter limit. The federal government suggests that we should have a 5 deciliter, so lower. We want it to be as low as possible. There is no safe level of lead, and the Senator knows this, and that's why he's making sure that public housing matches the best known science, and that the CDC level of 5 is the same as what is being used in the federally subsidized housing, and whether it's Section 8 vouchers or public housing. So additionally, to prevent lead exposure and poisoning, the new measure would also require risk assessments to be conducted for low-income housing constructed prior to 1978, which is when we outlawed lead in this country, in paint before a child of 6 years old moves in. Again, preventative measures, should that make sense. Lead poisoning is an entirely preventable disease. It is not curable. We need to make sure that kids under the age of 6 do not move into homes that have lead paint, period. And the Senator understands that and has been leading on it, and we appreciate his tenacity and dedication on that issue. I talked a little bit earlier today about Superstorm Sandy. Again, the Senator has been with us all the way on that. He made sure, in large part, really he and his staff made sure that people who were getting fraudulently underpaid by insurance companies were able to get paid what they deserved so that they could rebuild their homes where they wanted. He heard directly from victims of Superstorm Sandy, and he got FEMA to reopen those claims and make sure that the federal government works for the people who pay the bills and not the other way around. Just last month, the Department of Homeland Security found that FEMA had failed to properly administer the National Flood Insurance Program, which is what the Senator had been saying for quite a while. So we know that he's out every single day making sure that New Jersey gets what we deserve, that we get the resources, the attention, and policies that will make our state a place everybody can afford to call home. We could not be more proud to work with him and his staff. Thank you so much for being here, Senator.
Well, thank you, Staci. I appreciate the introduction. You delivered it just as I wrote it for you, so I appreciate your gracious introduction. And welcome, everybody, to Washington. I'm glad to have you here and advocating. And I'm thrilled that we got this room for you. It's almost not big enough, but I'm glad we got this room for you to all meet. I want to say to Susan, I don't know where she is, but there you are. Thank you for sharing your story. And yes, not all heroes wear capes, and you're a hero to me when I listen to your story. So thank you for sharing the story, because it tells us who we're fighting for here in Washington every day, and a real life example. I'm honored to be with all of you. And let me start off by saying thank you, because you are advocates, affordable housing providers, your community leaders. You do incredible work for the people of New Jersey. And you know, I can have some of the best ideas, and they always get improved by Staci and others, but at the end of the day, it's the human capital that is behind those ideas, reaching out for our members of Congress to have them join us in that effort that makes the difference. And I appreciate all of your efforts after years of working with Staci and Arnold Cohen of the network, and Richard Brown and Kate Kelly of Monarch Housing, and so many others. I know that New Jersey has the best advocates on their side. They're I believe that the programs and the legislation that you are here fighting for to provide critical funding for low-income families, to revitalize the stressed neighborhoods, to assist underwater homeowners, to ensure that children living in federally qualified housing ultimately have basic health protections, are the very essence of what the government's obligations are all about. Everyone should have a place to call home. Everyone should have a place to nurture their family. I was a mayor before I got to the Senate, and I see firsthand the benefits of the housing and community development programs like the Home Investment Partnership, the Choice Neighborhood programs that can have a direct impact in our communities. Quite simply, these programs can change lives. They're not about brick and mortars. They're not about rehabilitation alone. They're about lives, about those. If we think of home, home is the first place we go to when we are born. Yeah. Home is the place that we get nurtured and grow up in. Home is the place where we share birthdays and weddings and sad occasions. Home is the very essence of the American spirit and the American experience. And without a place to call home, then ultimately all of those nurturing realities don't take place. That's why when I was the chairman of the Housing Subcommittee, that's now as a senior Democrat, we call that as the ranking Democrat, I pushed very hard to have the federal government engaged in the types of programs that can create more homes, that can create more affordable housing, that can create the opportunity for those with disabilities also to have housing, because that's incredibly important as well. And why we have to provide strong efforts for funding for homeless assistance and tenant-based voucher programs. Right. They give the tenant the power to make the decision of where they want to go. Now, we have the numbers to prove just how important these programs are. Since 2001, federal investments in homeless assistance programs have resulted in the development of more than 113,000 permanent supportive housing units for homeless individuals and their families. And because of these investments, we've achieved a 22% reduction in chronic homelessness since 2010. But that's still not good enough. There is much more that needs to be done. On the voucher side, federal dollars provided critical rental assistance for 2.2 million families. These are the most economically vulnerable families in the country, including those families with disability, elder family members, children, and formerly homeless veterans. It drives me crazy when I walk the streets of Washington and go to the national monuments that I see a homeless veteran, anybody who's homeless, but a homeless veteran who served their country sitting on a grave to get warm. That is not what the great We know that the cost burden that families and households have to have a place to call home is increasingly rising, paying more than 30% of their income for housing. Think about that, about a third of whatever income you make going to have a place to call home. And that rose by 3.6 million from 2008 to 2014 to 21.3 million. Of those individuals who are spending over a third of their income to be able to have a place to call home. And worse, the number of families facing the most severe burdens, those that pay more than 50% 50% of their incomes for housing jumps by 2 million to a record 11.4 million in the same period. In the greatest nation on the face of the earth, we can do much better than that. And that's what we are doing. So I just want to close by saying every day that I'm here, I focus on who I fight for. I grew up poor in a tenement in Union City. I know what it was to have and live in a place which was infested. I know what it was to live in a place that didn't always have heat. But I also learned the spirit of community of when my my late mother, who was a seamstress in a factory and worked very hard so that I could be the first in my family to go to college. I remember her cooking a meal and very often inviting other members of the building, other neighbors of the building to come eat. And I would say to her, Mom, but there's not enough to go around for our family. And she said, we have more than some of the others. And for so long as we do, we're going to invite this to our guests. And so that sense of community, that sense of understanding that we are all in this together, is something that has permeated my entire life in public service. It's what drives me here every day in the Senate to fight for a different course of actions. And I just want to close on this. Whether it is about ending lead paint in our homes, and particularly in public housing, so no child, ultimately no family gets subject to lead paint poisoning. And as Staci said, there is no good level of lead paint. But we are forcing the government to come down in the levels and make sure that it's a lot safer. Whether it is to find a place to call home for any members of our families, whether it is to reconvert our communities in a way that people can achieve economic opportunity, like Susan was talking about in her own life, so that they can empower themselves and fulfill their God-given capabilities. I view my job here as creating the opportunities to do that, and it is a fight, because not everybody in the Senate has the views that you are all here espousing and that I am fighting for. Not everyone believes that the government can be an opportunity to unlock the potential in people's lives and have them fulfill their God-given capabilities. That is something that we need to change the mind of. And if we want to see the types of programs and investments, these are investments in our people, the opportunity for a better education, for better health care, for better housing, for better quality of life, to fulfill their potential, and in fulfilling their potential, fulfill the potential of America, then these elections, and I don't care what party or affiliation you are, but these elections for the presidency of the United States, for the United States Senate, for the House of Representatives, is going to dictate what type of country are we going to live in. Is it going to be one that looks at those in the dawn of life, the children, and say we want to do everything we can so that child can fulfill their potential? Is it going to be a country that looks at those in the shadows of life that ultimately face some problems, some addictions, some disability? And how about those in the twilight of life? People who have helped build families and communities for a long time and now are facing the end of their life. How are we as a society going to treat all of those people? And are we going to be brothers and sisters in a beloved community, that whether you are black or white, rich or poor, Jew or Gentile, Protestant or Catholic or Muslim, that ultimately we are going to reach out to them. That's what
Anybody else want to join the photograph? This is a great opportunity. Senator Menendez represents all of us in New Jersey, so this is a great opportunity to be part of the photograph with the senator who represents all of us. We'll have a similar opportunity later with Senator Booker, but we wanted to take this to squeeze in as many as you can. Oh,
Stay right there.
Just make sure that we can see Senator Menendez. That's all we ask. We don't mind. Join us, join us, join us.
Social media. Richard is dictated. Richard.
All right, this is amazing. Gentlemen, want to share?
Look powerful from the back of the room, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, that's like, yeah, that's like, I made one.